Today I wanted to do a review video of my Loewe puzzle bag that I bought last year, so March 2020. It's been about 11 months now and I've used it quite a bit over the past year in terms of everyday usage, traveling, bringing it to work that one time I did. I do believe that I'm in a quite comfortable place to gauge its quality, ease of use, any kind of pros and cons that I would say in terms of owning this bag that you should be aware of before you decide that you want this bag. I'm not going to waste any more time in saying that I absolutely love this bag. It has been and will, I think, always be one of the hero pieces in my wardrobe. I just cannot really fault it, to be honest. So in terms of cons, I don't really have any, but I will say that there are some things to consider that, you know, if you are a different person to me, obviously, things that you might want to consider before you get this bag. So I'm just gonna go into the details of the bag first. The bag that I bought is in the small size and it's the grained leather, as you can see over here, with the gold hardware and the embossed logo as opposed to the white logo that you would get in the smooth leather version. I believe that one is called brown or tan. This one's called light caramel. I think there is a very slight differentiation in terms of color. This one I would say errs a little bit more on the warmer side, whereas the smooth tan silver version is a bit more cool toned, but a very slightly, I would say. I do believe that this is slightly more expensive than the tan smooth leather version. That one I believe is about £100 cheaper, but honestly, when it comes to picking between each version, the price difference for me, I wouldn't say would deter me to sway one way or another. It is just based on personal preference. So I'm going to start with the pros of the bag. Obviously, the hugest, is that even a word? The biggest pro for me is the design and the quality of the bag. I do believe that this is such a unique shaped bag. Yes, it is a rectangular bag, as you can see here. It is longer over here than it is here. But I do believe that because of little subtle details about it, it just sets it apart from the usual camera bag styles that you can see, which I would say is quite similar to what this was inspired by. The biggest difference is the top handle over here. Camera bags don't usually have a top handle. And the fact that it slouches like this, that it changes the shape slightly to become a little bit more organic and architectural, in my opinion, which I really love about it. The other thing that I would say in terms of the design is obviously these panels here, which to a kind of like a person who has just seen the bag won't really do that much purpose, but actually it was designed so that you can wear it a lot of different ways. I believe it originally was 7, but because this is the newer version of the small puzzle bag, it doesn't have the little hook over here that turns it into a backpack. It just stays put. I do believe that the medium size still stays the same though, with that kind of feature, so you can wear it a little bit more ways. But for me, the small size is quite perfect. So the design of it is quite unique, but it's still functionality wise very usable because of the familiarity that the camera bag kind of esque style gives it. And the other thing that I would say, obviously I've droned on about this in my first impressions video already, so I'm not going to go too much into detail about it, but it just gives so much satisfaction to the wearer, I think, just because of the little details. Like for example, this thing over here, it goes this way so that when you wear it crossbody, the bag doesn't tilt forward like a lot of the crossbody bags do. The back zipper over here is actually a triangular pocket that goes like here, and I find that so handy, especially for smaller items like credit cards, face masks for nowadays, and lip balms and things like that that you want to reach really easily. And then just small little details like the length of the leather tabs on each zipper, the fact that the resin finish on the handle is actually on the back, so it doesn't obstruct the view of the handle in the front side of the bag. I just feel like gives so much joy to the wearer, and for me it's just one of the biggest pros of the bag. It's just that every single time I wear it, I have little details that I admire about it and little things that I discover about it that I just appreciate and love even more. The other pro that I would say that this bag has is definitely the weight. It is so light in terms of body weight. Like there's nothing inside right now, and for me it just doesn't feel like anything. It obviously feels like, you know, you have an item in your hand, but when you wear it crossbody, it just feels like it's completely feather light, and I just love it. And it doesn't even deter from the feel of the quality, if that makes any sense. A lot of times, especially in the beginning when I was first buying designer bags, I would kind of equate weight to quality, but this definitely isn't the case. Like, it is super, super lightweight, but I still feel like there's bundles and bundles of quality in this bag, you know? And for everyday use, especially in the small size, you can put so much in it, and essentially all you're toting around is the weight of your items and not really the weight of the bag, which I really appreciate, especially, you know, for all day use. If you're doing grocery shopping, if you're having lunch, or walking around the city going shopping, this is such a great bag, and it's an easy bag to use as well, because of the weight. The third kind of pro that I would say is actually in the strap. So let me get it now. So the strap actually, in terms of the leather, if you're getting the grained version, is a different texture to the rest of the bag. So this is actually a smoother leather. I don't know if you can see or if it's focusing correctly. Let me wait. Yeah, so this is the smooth texture of the leather. I don't know if it's actually the same leather as the tan version body of the bag, but it is the same on the handles over here, and it is the same on the leather strap here, which I just feel like gives a little bit of dimension and difference to the bag. You can see the texture is slightly different. This one is a bit more smooth. I love this strap so much. I know that the older versions had an extra shoulder padding over here that goes over here, which I do appreciate, but for me, again, like, for personal preferences, in terms of the small, I don't really necessarily think it's an essential, because the weight of the bag will never be so huge on you that you would need that kind of extra support on your shoulder. And the way that they have constructed these holes, I just find it super handy in terms of height differences and body shape differences. Because each hole is 10 centimeters apart and there's 4 of them, you essentially get 40 centimeters in height difference, length difference, sorry, in the strap, which I find is extremely handy. There's so many bags that I've seen where the holes are right next to each other, like 1, 2, 3, 4, which, to be honest with you, I don't really see the point in that, just because it's not actually going to adjust it that much. Even in the strap, there are so many details that I love. For example, the logo you can see over here is on the back side of the adjustment, and then on the buckles here, this feels so weighty. I would say the majority of the weight of the bag would come from kind of the buckles of this strap, but it has a little Loewe embossing situation in the metal, which I really, really appreciate. They didn't skimp out in terms of the quality of the strap. They didn't miss out on any additional details. This really just flows consistently with the bag so that it's one finished piece. When you have it actually strapped in, it just looks so seamless and flawless, and part of the design, if that makes sense. A lot of times I do see that, you know, for some designer bags, it looks as though the strap has been an afterthought for functionality, but this, you know, is kind of part of the design and just part of the beauty of the bag. Now I'm gonna quickly touch on things to consider if you're thinking about this bag, and I really just don't have any cons. Like, in terms of everyday use, I found this to be extremely easy to use. When you open the bag, you just kind of like hold the handle, lift the flap, and then you open the zipper, which to me is super, super easy. But obviously, if you want a really fuss-free bag, this is a zippered bag, so you know you're gonna have to spend some time pulling the zipper closed and open, so that's something to consider. And then the other thing to consider is definitely the flap pocket on the inside. It just kind of flaps open like this, as you can see. It's not a zippered pocket, and it doesn't have any kind of elasticity so that it won't kind of stick to the back of the bag. It actually flops open like this a little bit, which I haven't found annoying, but I did find items kind of like accidentally ending up in there when I'm not looking where I'm putting things, just because it gapes open a little bit. So if you're looking for a bag with secure back pockets that is sizable enough to put your wallet, for example, then this perhaps is not the most secure in terms of internal compartments, but I would still argue that it's quite secure, just because you can conceal the zipper, as you can see here, just kind of like under the flap, so that, you know, anybody who's trying to get into the bag, they're gonna have to track down where the zipper is first to open it. The other thing to consider that I would say is quite specific to this bag, the grained leather version, is that yes, I don't think it will flatten over time, not as dramatically as, you know, the Chanel quilts would, for example, but in points of contact where, you know, the bag rubs against your body a lot for crossbody wear, I am starting to see a little bit, and I'm going to show you really, really hard, like over here, you can see that there's a little bit of flattening or smoothing out of the grained pebbled leather. Now obviously, because this is grained, so there's like little bumps along the surface, the more you rub your hands or your body against something, it will flatten over time. but I do feel that the positioning of where they put these points of contacts on is really well thought out, because it's just around the zipper. It's not actually over here. For example, if you had a really big flat smooth patch over here over time, I would be a little bit concerned, but just because it's on these 3 points and you can barely see it, and that's where most of the pressure is contained, I do feel like that is not a problem for me, obviously. But if you are someone who is a little bit wary about things flattening out over the time, then maybe the grained leather version, this is something to look out for, or you know, maybe go for the smooth leather version instead. Great. In terms of wear and tear, like I mentioned, the leather did show a little bit of flattening in the 3 corners that I was saying before, but other than that, this bag has done extremely well. I have no scratches, 0 at all over here, and I've actually had to stuff this bag into my backpack when I took it as a carry-on, and nothing it didn't sustain any injuries from that, is what I'm trying to say. And then also in terms of the corners, you can see on the corners is pretty much immaculate. I don't see any sort of wear at all anywhere, so you can see here. And I think it just benefits from the shape of the bag, because it's not a traditionally very rectangular or boxy bag. It does have rounded corners like these. It just has it's a lot more forgiving. I've had this bag sat on, I've accidentally leaned on it for like hours on end, and it still kind of maintains its shape. You know, this slouch will eventually happen. I can puff it out like this and then just do this, and it's still going to slouch a little bit, which I really appreciate and love about this bag. But definitely, you know, if you want it to keep its shape to be like exactly this forever, I would kind of recommend getting a bag organizer or something like that, just to kind of train it to keep puffed up like this. But I do believe that it is part of the design, because you know, it's meant to slouch. And if you see pictures on the Loewe website, for example, you can also see the slouch as kind of the feature of the bag. So it's definitely something that I love, and I have found that over time it has slouched a little bit more, so the leather does soften over time and then it kind of wears into this shape more permanently. In terms of the inner lining of the bag, I haven't had any issues at all. As you can see here, this lining, let me just try to pull it out, is actually pull-outable. So you can kind of wiggle it like this, and then, you know, have any dust be off. And then because of the pattern of the lining, and I hope you can see it here, it's kind of a herringbone pattern. So there's little beige zigzaggy lines, chevron print in there, which I believe hides dirt extremely well. And then in terms of the logo, no wear and tear at all. I know that, you know, maybe for the smooth leather one, maybe, and I'm not sure at all because I don't have that version, maybe over time if you rub on it a lot that the white paint might come off. But because this is embossed, I haven't experienced any sort of flattening or thinning of the canvas, you know, if you press on it too much, for example. But this is embossed very deeply into the bag, as you can see over here, that I just don't see that happening. You know, it's really ingrained in there. So over time your logo hopefully will forever stay intact as well. No scratches on the handles at all. As you can see here, no scratches over here. And then the most miraculous thing I would say about this bag is that there has been no tarnishing of the hardware. So you can see over here that it's still very gold and shiny. I also haven't experienced any scratches on the zippers or the zipper pulls. The only thing that I was a little bit concerned about is obviously this is a lot of hardware rubbing on hardware, so hardware, but again, quite miraculously, I haven't seen any sort of rubbing off of the gold plating or the gold tone hardware. There hasn't been any sort of signs of wear even on the gold hardware. Concerning how well it's wearing, to be honest, but I'm very happy about that as well. So yeah, wear and tear wise, 10 out of 10. I can't fault it at all. Great. Now I'm just going to show you the different ways of wearing it. This will vary from person to person, and right now I have it on the second to shortest setting just because I like having it quite high up on my body. So if I can just show you like this, I like to wear it kind of right around my hip or hip bone area, and then when I have it kind of hanging like this, it sits right over here, so right above my hip bone. And I really like this length. I like this length for summertime and for winter times as well, just because I feel like it kind of gives it a little bit of a bum bag feel. And for now, I just really enjoy this length. But obviously, if you want it a bit longer, it goes about 20 centimeters longer. So that's quite nice as well, I think. You can take the strap completely off and just have it as a top handle bag if you want. And then you can even kind of like do this and hold it kind of like a clutch. I've never done that because I don't have events where I have to hold things like a clutch, but you know, if you wanted to, the option's also there for you. In terms of sizing, I obviously have the small one. The medium one is beautiful. I feel like the slouch would be even bigger because there's a larger kind of surface area for it to slouch. And then there's a mini version, which is kind of like here, I think. And then I think they also came out with the nano, which is like this big. I think all sizes are beautiful, but in terms of getting the most slouch or like the most Loewe puzzle bag look for your money, I do believe that the small and the medium sizes will show off this curvature a lot more than the mini and the nano would, just because, you know, there's more area for it to slouch. So it really just depends on how you want the bag to look and how you want the bag to wear as well over time. I just wanted to show you what can actually fit in this bag. Definitely a lot more than I usually would carry. I don't actually carry too many things with me on a day-to-day basis, but hopefully this gives you an idea of generally what it fits. So right now the bag is completely empty, as you can see here. So I'm just going to start putting things in. So this is a typical book in a standard book size, which as you can see fits quite nicely, but you do have to wiggle it around, first kind of lengthways and then sideways. So that fits in here perfectly. And then a wallet. This is kind of like a card holder, more like, but it is still quite wide and tall. So that fits in quite perfectly as well, as you can see here. And then my phone over here. That goes in quite easily as well, right here. And then my sunglasses. This is just a Bottega sunglasses in a soft case, but obviously a hard case will work as well. And this goes in quite nicely. You just have to put it in here, and this is what it looks like so far. And then smaller items like hand cream I can put in here, hand sanitizer, kind of standard size here, lip balm. I love this lip balm, but I usually just put it in the back pocket here, which I find the most useful so that I can grab it. And then keys as well. So this is, I don't have like a keychain or anything, so that all goes in there. And this is completely I wouldn't say full, but this is pretty much a lot of what it fits. And then right now, I think, as you can see here, I still have a little bit of space on top, so it's not completely filled to the brim of the bag yet, so I can actually still fit the camera, which is a Canon G7X, in here. So yeah, fits a ton. Quite deceiving, I think, in terms of the look of the bag, but lots of things fit in here. Great. I think that was everything in terms of my review. I've again had this bag for almost a year now, and I just don't see it deteriorating ever for me in terms of rank in my love affair for bags. Everything about it just screams quality and just design and love for me. This is quite dramatic again, isn't it? I'm just quite dramatic about bags. I really do hope that this video was helpful for you. Again, this is definitely not like a logical talk you out of buying the bag video, so I'm sorry if you were here for that. But if you really love the bag and you wanted someone to talk you into buying the bag, I hope I did the job for you. And if you have any questions, you know, in terms of wear and tear or any specifics that I didn't cover, definitely let me know and I'll get back to you in the comments. And yeah, see you in the next one. Bye.